So the first thing to point out here is that I'm not using a capo on the first fret as I did in the performance. The reason is that I wanted to be able to talk about the chords and the chord shapes that are being played, and a lot of them are these open chord shapes that we know as guitarists relate to particular chords, so A major, E major. Now, with a capo on the first fret, of course, that changes what the chord is, puts it up like a semitone, so E becomes F and A becomes A sharp and so on. So to avoid confusion, I wanted to be able to talk about the chords as they actually are, and then to play it in the song in the actual key that it's in. It's simply a case of popping a capo on the first fret there. Let's get into this now. So this song starts with that rhythmic pattern, just strumming the muted strings with the right hand. It's actually good to be able to work out a way of strumming when you're playing with your fingers as well. There's then a slide and an open A. Now this the first chord in this key we're playing it would be an A major, and it's that classic country vibe where there's a fifths in the bass line. This here isn't just an A major chord played on the 5th fret, and that's a really useful chord to know. The bar chord's this, but of course you can use the open A and just play it there. 5th fret on the B string, 6th fret on the G string, and 7th fret on the D string, open. And if you play the open E as well, you get like a drone effect. You get a drone effect there, there's 2 E's on the top. Or you can play it like you would play an F major when you first learn it, on the 5th fret like that. And this is such a classic Chet Atkins style. So this is a theme throughout the song. So on most of the chords, you're alternating between the root and the 5th, so E and A in this case, and then there's another root there, so that's an octave, and that's what it does. And the picking pattern, so this piece uses that style of playing and picking pattern in this arrangement all the way through, really. So the first chord, A, then you've got a F sharp minor, and I was playing it like this. This is another really key fundamental point when playing fingerstyle guitar, is a lot of the times you want to try and play chords as economically as possible, not necessarily in the standard chord shape. So if I said to a student or player, anyone, including myself, play an F sharp minor chord, you'd probably just play the bar chord, like that, the minor bar chord. But here, it's simply more of a move. It's more difficult to make the transition between the chords. So this now is being played like a shortened F sharp minor, just any minor bar chord. So with the bar on the top 3 strings there, 2nd fret, and then you're fretting the 4th fret on the D string there, which is the F sharp, and then using the thumb. So if I just move this slightly here, that's how I'm playing. But if you were to play the bar chord, it's much more of a change in the position of your hand. And that is what you're trying to always minimize when playing complicated arrangements and fingerstyle by nature is quite a complicated way of playing. With this way, you're moving your hand, yes, down the fretboard, but there's no change in your position on the back of the neck. Another really key feature and ability that you need to play this style of fingerstyle playing is incorporating the thumb. It's such a useful tool. Being able to move the thumb up over, and I never use it on the A, only on the, some players I've seen do the bottom two strings. I only ever use it on the low E, but it means that straight away the first two chords in the song, there's such a minimal movement there. With the A chord, you can either fret the 5th fret top E string there, or use the drone technique where you've got the two E's to the F sharp minor. Now I'm using the little finger here to get to the 5th, so the bass, it's now changed round, so on the A chord the root was here and the 5th was like physically above it on the guitar, on the E string. Now you've got the root on the low E string and the 5th on the A string. So all you need to do is just change which string you start on. So now it's on the A string, now it's on the E. And then grabbing the 5th with the little finger there. And once you start using these techniques, it makes playing so much more fluid. I think this is a little bit comparable to when you hear players talk about getting fenced in by box positions, learning scales, and not being able to transcend the neck. I think chord shapes can be a bit like that, where you get stuck on playing them exactly as the standard shapes are known. So anyway, that's how this F sharp minor is played. So we've now got then you've got, this is D major. Now, a really good general point to make with this is that I find playing D major as this shape way better for fingerstyle than playing it as the traditional normal D major chord shape here. And the reason for that is you get an extra string to play with. And I find it keeps all the chords with the bass notes on the bottom two strings, or physically the top as you look at the guitar strings on the guitar. Now, I think this is really important because a lot of the time, to keep the 5ths in the bass going, when you're switching between having the root on the 5th or the 6th string, the A or the E, just making sure that it's always on these two strings and you're not having to go down to the D and the 4 for the bass is a really helpful tool or ability. Now you could play that with the D here, probably. I'll give that a go. Yeah. But I think playing it there is fuller chord and I actually find it easier. If you know your caged system for chords, that's the C shape of the D major chord. So it's like a C major played on the 5th fret, but with the little finger leading and then bar there. All you need to bar is these 3 strings, the top 3 strings, and then the bass is going like that. So you move your little finger up to the 5th string, the A. Now you could play that, the open A. If you don't play it like that, with the alternating between the 5th and the 6th string, if you use the open, well then you've got to remember when you get to that chord that the bass is staying on one string, you're not alternating the thumb. So when you're always alternating the thumb and it's always on those 2 strings, it's almost like you've automated a whole process in your brain. So keeping everything as simple as you can really helps with the fluidity of your playing. So far we've got so there, the melody note is the F sharp. Then you've got a normal standard A major chord shape with all the fretting on the 2nd fret, open A, and then the 3 fingers on the D, G and B string, and then open E. So that pattern. I'll play it slowly and you can also slow down the video. Now the next chord is simply an E major, but little finger here, C sharp. So now there's a C sharp on the E major chord, then back to the A. So we've got the intro. Then that's a leading bass run into the first verse. So it occurs on the bar prior to where the first verse starts. So like this. Then we're into the first verse. When I worked out the A chord, I was thinking about playing it here to get 2 E notes, which is the melody note. So it is mimicking more rhythmically what the vocalist is doing. But ultimately I decided with this, it was going to need a lot more practice, and I just thought ultimately you can do it with the open A chord, which is much easier. So that's what I was playing. Slowly. So again, we're alternating the bass here, and then using these 3 fingers. Like that. So top 3 strings of the guitar. Then the melody goes here at the F sharp. So it's like this. Okay. Here, this is where some creative arranging was needed, because when we go to the F sharp minor, playing it in this octave, the melody actually goes there. That's what the melody's actually doing if you want to continue playing it in that octave. So you'd have but moving here, you can't fit that. It's impossible to fit that with the F sharp chord and the bass here. You can play it there, but there's no easy way of incorporating that melody fluently into this structure. So all I decided to do in this arrangement was move the next melody note an octave up. So it goes like this. So this C sharp now, melody note, is being played here, an octave lower, so it sounds like this. And now the F sharp is being played in the standard form, except with the middle two fingers. So this is now a stretch to be able to do that. There's no getting around it really. We're in the key of A major, which I don't think is one of the most friendly keys for fingerstyle guitar. Typically find C major, D major, G major, even E major are easier keys than A major. But it is what it is. We have to be able to play it. So that's the way. So we've got the verse. That transition between those two chords is tricky. I wasn't too bothered, and I'm not too bothered about getting a little bit of a slide or something in. That just really adds to the nature of the playing and what it sounds like on an acoustic. You know, you get a bit of slide noise, a bit of fret noise, it's fine. Then you've got back to this D major shape, same as the intro. Again, we're using these three fingers in tandem and alternating the bass between this D and this A on the 5th fret. Back to normal A major, with the melody that's starting on the A. Then we're back after the A major, we've got the simple E major chord with the C sharp on B string 2nd fret. Now here, this is where stylistically I'd always encourage players to experiment with things like hammer-ons, pull-offs. So a good couple that you can use to really nicely add subtlety and dynamics and originality into your playing is like the hammer-on liner, or the pull-off back from maybe like a half step above, or simply, I can't remember what I did exactly in the piece. This is where if you're performing something like this on a regular basis, you can mix it up, and good fingerstyle solo players will often do that. So the verse in its entirety now, then one round through, or one section through, is this. Second time through it's the same, although I was adding little subtleties to the finger picking patterns. So there's one. Then there's, that's just like this, or so mixing it up like that is great. That adds more feel as well to the playing and keeps the piece interesting. Same F sharp minor shape. Then we've got like that. A major. That's the melody. Then when you go to the E, you keep the C sharp minor. You start with the C sharp minor as well in the chord here. So this note, the 2nd fret B string. So now we've got the full verse. Then, once you've been through once at the start of the song, it repeats with that leading bass run in. Now here, when I got to the A chord, the 2nd run through, I think I played something like... which is a very slightly different picking pattern. The more of these style of pieces you've learned, the more you can incorporate and put these different finger picking patterns in to any song. That's why it's really good to learn them, practice them, and play them in different pieces. Something like that. That's embellishing the melody with those techniques that I previously mentioned, so the pro-arms, hammer-offs and things. The chorus of the piece is probably the easiest part of it to play. It starts with the E, and the melody notes are all in the standard E major chord here. And again, these different picking patterns can be used. So you could play or then it's to the D major that we've been playing throughout. Back to the A major. Hammer on. So that's a hammer on little finger from the 3rd string G on the 2nd fret to the 4th, like that. Now we're playing the F sharp minor in the standard position that you would learn it, except I'll say that, not quite, because you would play an F sharp minor like this, and what we're doing is we're moving the 3rd finger down to here, the octave, on the 4th fret, D string, and not actually worrying about this A string. Missing it on this occasion. So we can get that hammer on in. So like this. And these are just slightly different ways of playing the chord each time, you might notice, in order to get the melody notes in. What we're really concerned about is the melody and the bass. The more you play fingerstyle guitar, the more you arrange fingerstyle guitar, it becomes more about getting the bass and the melody in and fitting the rest, which I guess would be the harmony or the chord, around that. You're very seldom thinking about rhythmic chords playing as you would as a rhythm player in a band. It's almost a hybrid way of thinking about or interpreting the guitar. So now we've got in the chorus, wrong chord. is. Now, I was changing this slightly, I think. I can't remember how I played it. When I was learning the piece and practicing the piece, instinctively I wanted to play it. But I think the actual rhythm of that melody in the song is more. Very subtle difference between the two. And I don't really think it matters. Because this is my own fingerstyle arrangement, I'm not going to get too hung up about that. The melody notes are correct. It's part of my interpretation of the piece. But playing this yourself, if anyone wants to have a go at it, you could do either one of those. So now that's the chorus section complete. So we've got this. Then back to the verse. So you can build the tempo up. If you want to play it slowly, you can do that and concentrate more on playing in the pocket. So on. Or if you want to work on technique, you can try playing it actually quicker. And so on. So we're now back into the verse, and then there's another verse section. So after the chorus, then there's the guitar solo part. Now, the guitar solo is the vocal melody played slightly differently. There's some stylistic things that the guitar, electric guitar, brings in, and the rhythm of it's a little bit different. I decided for this part to play so just move the melody down a bit. It's up physically on the guitar because you're playing the bass strings more, but move the melody lower in pitch. Then I think on the second time round, I can't remember. When I was practicing it, I did that twice, but when I recorded it, I think I went back to... So just to say, this is up to you, and this is where I would just really encourage players always to play what you want to and mess about with it, work things out. We're not learning a piece here for an exam, a grade piece. This is all in the name of fun and hopefully improving. So you can really decide about how to put a bit of variety into your performance, your arrangement, yeah. After the verse, it goes into another chorus, which we've already looked at. Then there's another verse section. This is where it changes key. The song changes key now. So I'll play the final verse through once in the key, when it's in the key of A here, as it is. So then it stops. And then we're back to that rhythmic part. Then there's a bass run again, except this time. And now we're in F sharp major, because it's now changed key into the key of B major. Now B major is a pig of a key to play in fingerstyle, but luckily it's quite a short section of the song, so we don't have to linger in this key of B major for long. It's tricky because the B chord itself is not easy to play in fingerstyle. There's no shortcuts. So here we've got F sharp major. They're the melody notes. Here I wasn't too concerned about playing exactly what the guitar's playing, other than getting the right top and the right feel. And I think the melody notes are right, but again, I wanted the ability to be able to improvise around it and not get completely constrained and restricted. Now here, we're simply doing roots on the bass. So between the E and the D string. And again, the thumb is being used. And it's now the major shape. Now we've got E major. And it's the melody is that C sharp that we've used throughout. Hammer on, pull off. Then B. Now this is probably the trickiest part of the piece, because the B major needs to be played like that. So like an A major, except you're using 3 fingers here, there on the 4th fret, and then barring the 2nd. And as an added bonus for difficulty, trying to get the 5th as well. So with this finger, the 1st finger, actually barring the low E string as well. I sort of try and push it up a bit. Like that, but it's whatever works for you here really. As a general practice routine part of this piece, it's really good to be able to play the B chord like that. So as I keep saying, this is a more general point, but in learning this piece, it's going to help any subsequent pieces where there's a B chord in a fingerstyle manner. So then we've got so that's hammer on here, 2nd to 4th with the little finger on the B string, all while keeping the finger picking pattern going. Then this is now a G sharp minor chord, and it looks odd initially, but only because it's that same shape with these 3 fingers moved this way, so towards you, up physically on the guitar neck towards the bass strings, and then on the 6th fret, and that's the minor chord there, G sharp minor. So we're playing it with these first three fingers, and then that allows this little finger to hit the melody note here, which is on the G string, 6th fret, and it's a hammer on there. So again, you keep the octave to root bass pattern going. Then back to the F sharp major. That's the same as if you remember on the chorus here. It's the same thing as that melody, but now in a different key. So, from the key change we've got B. This is a little bit tricky. We're alternating the bass between the bottom two strings, root to fifth. Here you want this melody note here, the G sharp. So played like that. I find here, technique-wise, flattening the fingers like that means you don't have to move anything. I'll try and move it around the back of the neck so you can see here. So there's not much movement in the thumb, it's all in the 3 fingers. See there? Flatten it. Then, so after the B, we've now got a G sharp minor. Now that is the same essentially as when we're in the original key, this section, which was of course in A, on the F sharp minor chord. We're now doing the same thing but just upper tone. So we've got so the shape of that's the same, so that's good because there's nothing new to learn or get your head around. Then, so whereas we had the D in the original key, we've now got E major. Now here, I think I play just a drone at open E instead of going to the 5th like that as we were doing in the original key on the D chord. I just found that easier when transitioning to the next chord, which is now going to be played here, back to B. But you can move up to this position with the B here, and this really helps with the fluidity because that shape actually is not difficult to hold or play. It's the same as the major F sharp major with the thumb. So yeah, we're using the thumb again. So from the E, and there's a really nice way you can get the melody note in the B simply by taking off your first finger, which is currently on the 7th fret, B string. Just playing it open like that. Then a slide. Which is the same shape. This is the key here. So we're moving it all the way down from the 7th fret to the 2nd fret, but it's exactly the same shape, so there's no big hand movements other than moving the position. And now the melody's there. So little finger on the B string 4th fret. Like that. And now the same thing. Here you can, I think I was messing about with embellishments like that, so something like that instead, just to mix it up a bit. Then, so now when you go back the second time to the F sharp major, you start with little finger B string 4th fret, D sharp, little finger 4th fret. Now here in the song it just goes back to the B. Actually that whole section there is slowed down, which I didn't incorporate in this fingerstyle version. It just didn't really suit the arrangement. Could have done it, could just start playing slower, but I thought it sounded better played at the same tempo. At the end that goes back to the B, but I went to the E and then to the B to resolve it. So the last run through the final verse is then here, B, back to the B, but now just playing it like that, because don't have to get this F sharp melody note in, so barred little finger now. You could still play it. I find this way of playing easier when I don't need that high note in. In fact, if you play it as a 6th chord, if you play it, keep this little finger compressed all the way down to the top E. But anyway, I just, to finish it, play the half step into this shape B major now in order to get the high B note, which is a good ending chord. Marks it as differential because it's got the higher root note in it. Then there's various dominant settings you can do just to do a quick stab in the ending, or you could just leave the major chord ringing out there, sustained.